So the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex manga could be ending very soon. And I know some people don't want to hear that, especially if you're a fan of the franchise, but based on word from the artist of Boruto, Mikio Ikamoto, well, it's definitely a high possibility. Now, the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex manga has been going on for a few years now, and the Boruto series as a whole has been going on for quite some time now. I want to say it was like maybe a decade ago or so or more that essentially the Boruto manga began, not including, of course, the fact that we had Boruto Naruto the movie, which essentially was the catalyst to the Boruto story as a whole. And then of course it was the following year that the Boruto manga was serialized that we got the Boruto Naruto Next Generations anime. So it would be misleading to act as if Boruto is completely and 100% just straight up brand new. While yeah, 2 Blue Vortex kind of just started again a few years back, and it feels so refreshing and it felt like a revitalization for the Boruto story as a whole, ultimately Boruto has been going on for quite some time. And based on some words that came from Mikio Ikamoto, the artist that has been in charge of Boruto since the beginning, it's not far-fetched to say that Boruto might end very soon. But there's a lot more to talk about with this, so without further ado, let's get into it. And before we continue, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you get notified on anything and everything in the world of anime and manga. Okay people, so yeah, while Boruto 2 Blue Vortex as it stands right now is pretty much so doing pretty well for the most part, sales are pretty much stabilized, and as of recent we actually got a major update that Boruto sales are a lot higher than we initially had thought, because with the whole changing of the anime and manga industry, in particular with the manga side of things, there was never really a major push to basically say of like, hey, this is what's going on the digital side of things, not only on the physical side of things. Because on the physical side of things, it's been pretty clear that Boruto is doing okay, it's doing decent, but very recent we got word that Boruto's digital sales are pretty much matching what the physical sales do. So if the latest volume of Boruto, for example, did about like 50 something thousand first week, on the digital side of things it's roughly done the same if not more based on estimations that were released from Billboard. So I say all that to say that essentially as far as sales go, I think that that would be a massive mistake of an even mindset to think that that's why Boruto would end at this particular point. Because while Boruto doesn't match of course its predecessor Naruto or anything like that, ultimately on its own, within its own merits, Boruto is still very successful regardless of if you want to hate it or not. The facts are the facts, and based on the sales and whatnot, it is doing very well. Not to mention the fact that we kind of already got somewhat of confirmation that the Boruto anime is coming back. Of course, when Boruto Naruto Next Generations went off air a few years back, ultimately it was pretty much hinted at and said that yeah, it's going to come back at some given point. It was just a matter of when. Obviously at that particular point the Boruto anime had kind of reached where the manga was, so there was like only a handful of chapters if not less at that time for them to adapt, and opposed to doing something that most of the fans agreed was a terrible decision of doing 100 trillion episodes of filler, they decided, yo, we're gonna take a break and then we'll get back to it. And of course since then the industry has changed even more, where now anime kind of seasonal stuff has become even more prominent. Back then it was already a force, and even more so now seasonal anime is the norm. But the Boruto anime is definitely on the way, which kind of coincides in this whole situation, because we've kind of already seen in recent times that we're no longer in the day and age of where it had to be that your manga was continuously ongoing while the anime was ongoing to kind of cross promote. With the surgence of anime's popularity into mainstream or whatnot, on top of the fact that of course Boruto is attached to one of the most successful IP of all time, Naruto, it's not necessarily a staple anymore where like Boruto manga needs to continuously be ongoing when the anime returns. I mean, look at Demon Slayer for example. The manga has been over for a quadrillion years now, and the anime is still ongoing with films and all of this stuff. Like yeah, it's not a requirement anymore for the manga to continue ongoing. So with Mikio Ikamoto's original comments that we're going to get to in a second, it's not far-fetched to think that they wouldn't be like, yo, we can end the manga right now or here very soon. Not right now, because there's still some plot threads that need to get tied. But yeah, the manga can end at any given point and it will be fine as far as affecting the anime side of things. And I guess before we continue, let me tell you exactly what was said. Because a while back there was an interview where the artist of Boruto, Mikio Ikamoto, said that essentially he planned for Boruto to be finished within 30 volumes due to the fact that he hopes to complete the story within 30 volumes to keep the entire saga of Boruto and Naruto within 100 volumes altogether. And so with Naruto ending with 72 volumes, there's a little bit of a miscalculation there, because if Naruto was 70 volumes, then 30 volumes would have made it 100. But there's 72 volumes of Naruto, and as it stands right now, as of the recording of this video, there's 20 volumes of OG Boruto and 7 volumes of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, with roughly 3 chapters essentially that have not been published in volume form as of yet. So you take that all into account, there's essentially 27 volumes of Boruto, and the 28th one is near completion, because each volume of Boruto roughly has about 4 to 5 chapters of content, essentially because it's a monthly, obviously weekly manga, they have like 7 or 8 chapters. So as it stands right now, Boruto's manga is getting very close to reaching that 100 volume mark, because essentially, again, 27 plus 72, that is essentially, oh my gosh, there's 99 volumes of Naruto and Boruto combined. Damn. But let's just say, for all intents and purposes, putting Mikio Ikemoto's estimations aside, essentially that there's 70 volumes, give or take, even though there's 72 of Naruto, and he planned for 30 to make 100. So according to that, there would basically be about 3 volumes left of content for the Boruto manga to essentially wrap itself up and finish off the story. And one of those 3 volumes already has about 3 chapters that are basically completed and already been serialized in monthly V-Jump magazine. So realistically, there's about 2 volumes and give or take a chapter or 2 that are left to be made, to be released, in order to meet that 30 volume quota of Boruto's story. And when you look at it from that perspective, while yeah, ultimately that's what Mikio Ikemoto said, we've had creators such as the creator of One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, say several different times throughout the journey that, like, yo, we're 50% through, we're 80% through, we're 90% through, only for later on to say, yeah, well, things went on a lot longer than I expected. So hence why this title doesn't say Boruto is ending, and more so it says Boruto could be or might be, depending on what wording I choose. You know, words do have power. Because in all honesty, while that was Mikio Ikemoto's estimation at that time, a lot of things have changed since then. For starters, 2 Blue Vortex didn't even happen yet at that particular point, you know, the time skip. Also, you take into account the fact that Ukyo Kodachi at that particular time was the one that was writing this thing. And in case you don't know, Ukyo Kodachi's writing style compared to the combination of essentially Ikemoto writing it now with Kishimoto supervising, because Ukyo Kodachi's writing style was very fast, very to the point. Ultimately, he got a lot of stuff done very quickly. Some would argue it was a little too quick and it would go over a lot of things very fast. Personally, I was a very big fan of how fast things would go. Like, I get it, the tortoise and the hare, but sometimes, bro, you just want to get to the point. You feel me? And at that particular time, it could be that Mikio Ikemoto, based on what Ukyo Kodachi was doing and how he was writing, was like, yeah, the way he's writing this ain't gonna go past a certain amount. But once it got to the point where the pen was in his hand and he was actually able to essentially do things for the most part as he saw fit, again with Kishimoto's blessings of course, then things might have changed. Because based on all the plot threads that we have to solve, I'm not sure that even, let's just say, if we had 3 full volumes worth of content to go, all of that could be wrapped up, which would essentially be about like 12 or 13 chapters. And don't get me wrong, 12 or 13 chapters in Boruto is a very different ball game than 12 or 13 weekly chapters, because Boruto's monthly, you get like 40 something pages per chapter. So essentially it would be almost like 30 chapters, give or take. If you basically convert it from monthly to weekly, it would be about like 30 weekly chapters. And me just freestyling some of the things that are like major plot points alone, we still gotta resolve what's going on right now in the manga with the battle against Mamushi. We still got the battle against Jura and Hidari, which that is essentially going to be a very big deal as far as Sarada and the whole eye situation. We got, of course, the plot threads with Amado and his daughter, which that is a massive plot point that has been going on for quite some time. We got the Otsutsuki leader to worry about. Boruto versus Kawaki, although based on what Kishimoto did with Naruto versus Sasuke, I don't imagine that's going to be like a 5-volume fight. That might actually be like 1 or 2 chapters. Naruto and Sasuke need to be unsealed. And of course, going more into, again, the dynamics of Kawaki, Naruto, and all of that family situation. And again, that's just me freestyling some of the major plot points that came to mind. There might be some other ones that are very major, and if you want to list them in the comments, let me know of what else needs to be resolved. Can all of that get resolved in, let's just say, 3 volumes of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex? I mean, the threat situation, if you think about it, let's just say Mamushi is defeated within the next chapter or so. Bring in Jura and Hidari. I do think that at the very least, Hidari is going to have like a major battle with Sarada and them, because it kind of just seems like, you know, that whole father-daughter dynamic needs to get resolved in some form or another. Jura himself, I think, because again, it hasn't really gotten too much into his character other than like, yo, he's learning and he's smart. Honestly, Jura can kind of be resolved, and even Hidari to a certain degree after a little bit of a battle at the very least that we probably should have. Amado can come in and say, yo, this has been my plan all along, and have them, you know, destroyed, or the Otsutsuki leader essentially either by himself or being summoned by Amado can essentially resolve all of that. Like, legitimately, if the author decided to, he could have all of the Divine Tree people defeated in a chapter or two in order to bring forth this bigger threat that's been kind of teased since part 1 at this point of the Otsutsuki leader. So realistically, within like 3 chapters, we could potentially have the Divine Tree defeated and the major threat brought forth. Would that be great pacing wise? Just depends on how people are feeling right now, as far as like, are you wanting another few chapters of Mamushi? Are you wanting more chapters of Jura? I think out of the 3 of them, the Hidori one, because of the connection to Sarada, probably be the one that I would want most extensive. Jura, again, feel like we've kind of already seen for the most part what it is with him, and considering that he's not based off of anybody else, they could do something interesting with him, but again, they could easily decide, yo, the Otsutsuki leader is far more interesting, let's just wrap this up with these people because they've been the threat of 2 Blue Vortex's entirety. Like I said, Boruto versus Kawaki, that could be resolved within a chapter or 2. I know some people are like, a chapter or 2? Yeah, a chapter or 2, 40-page plus of them both going at it. Naruto versus Sasuke was resolved in about 4 or 5 weekly chapters. And Naruto and Sasuke being unsealed, I think that those are going to be monumental moments. Ideally, I hope it happens sooner than later, and that'll probably be a couple chapters as well. So could it be done within 3 or so volumes? Yeah, it can be done. Pacing wise, will it be the greatest? Just depends on how Ikamoto does it. So as far as for story's sake go, of the story ending and the manga ending within, you know, this time frame that Ikamoto had initially estimated, it can be done, yes. And then you got to take into account the fact of the franchise and what it means overall as far as, you know, financial profit and gains. Because in all honesty, as much as Boruto does and as much as we support Boruto, I've been one of the people that have been rocking with Boruto from the beginning. Ultimately, the fact of the matter is, if tomorrow Boruto ended and a Naruto weekly series that is written by Kishimoto, art by somebody else, and it's done, you know, weekly and is a very good story, would be 10 times more profitable. Or even a Naruto original anime that they put out that is written by Kishimoto would be 10 times more profitable. And I say that with max love to the Boruto story that I've been supporting for a long time, but the truth is the truth, and ultimately when Boruto ends, they are going to go back to Naruto. If they don't, it would be the most pivotal mistake in the history of any franchise. Not to mention the fact of how the Naruto IP has been handled up until this point. Like, why isn't there a popular card game going with it? Like, there's so many other questions, but we're not even gonna get into that aspect. But yeah, as far as ending Boruto sooner than later, it makes sense profit wise, because a Naruto return would be bigger than anything Boruto has done, despite the fact that Boruto's awesome. And of course, all of this depends on, most importantly, outside of the higher ups of, you know, Shueisha, whatnot, what Kishimoto wants to do. How many years has it been since the Samurai 8 situation? You got to imagine if he did that project, it's because he was in the passionate mood to create. So it's not like after Naruto ended that he just ultimately didn't want to do anything anymore. It's just Samurai 8 didn't go the way that he expected, so ultimately he's kind of just been supervising Boruto. He might be ready for his next series. He might be ready to get back in this thing and again try to do something similar to what he did with Samurai 8, where he's writing and somebody else is drawing it, but he might be ready to do it again. I want to say it was not that long ago that he actually hinted that he was ready to make manga again, and a Naruto story, well, that would essentially print money, and regardless of passion and all that stuff, which is very important to us, ultimately the business side of things, Naruto would flourish. So is Boruto going to end within the next volume? No, more than likely not, unless something major and drastic happened. Boruto probably has at least a few volumes left, but it could also be that Ikamoto at the time underestimated how long it would take, and it's going to take a lot longer. It could be that they wrap things up in a more quicker pacing, which is definitely doable as I explained. So yeah, Boruto might be ending soon, but if Ikamoto was off on his estimations, then we could still be in for a longer ride than expected. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think Boruto could end in the next few volumes, or is it going to take another 5 or 10 volumes? And your expectations for the future? That's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.